Hello, this is Mrs. Ross, and I'm going to show you how to get to the muscle system lab called In a Blink. So go ahead, we're on the Schoology page. We're going to scroll down to the human body unit and the muscular system unit or lesson. And then the muscle system lab is right here. Just kind of a point of notice your biblical integration discussion is here on muscles, so you'll need that at some point. This is something that you are going to need to do with a partner. So then when I click on this, it opens this file. So let's go ahead and go through this. So let's see. A muscular system in a blink muscle lab. The objective is to determine if blinking is voluntary or involuntary. And the very first thing you're going to do is write your hypothesis. Your hypothesis is either that blinking is voluntary, blinking is involuntary, blinking is some measure of both, mostly one or the other. You choose. This is your educated guess on what you know about blinking, muscle systems, voluntary and involuntary muscles. Okay. And then as we come down, it says this is what you'll need. You're going to need a partner. You are not going to need a transparent film such as saran wrap or a blank overhead transparency. You will have goggles, and there are clean, sanitized goggles in the back of the science lab hanging on the drying rack. You will need to wad up a few paper balls. I have scratch paper we can use for that. And you will be given a timer. So you do not need to use your phone as your timer. You will be given a timer. So this is what you're going to do. In part one, you're going to have your partner either read a book or do something they do every day. We're not going to be using our phones, so I prefer reading a book. If your partner wants to write something down, that's fine. They will be wearing the goggles. So the point of this is not, actually, I don't think you need the goggles for part one. The point is not to think about blinking. You're going to count the number of times your partner blinks in 1 minute, so you will need the timer. Record that information in the table below and change roles. So for the first minute, your partner's going to read the book and you're just going to watch how many times they blink. For the next minute, you're going to read the book and they're going to watch how many times you blink. So this is part one. Count the number of blinks in 1 minute. You're going to do this twice for your classmate, twice for yourself, the total and the average. Okay, so that's all part one. Let's keep on scrolling. Part two, it says record the length of time your partner can go without blinking. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to go ready, set, go. You're going to start your timer or stopwatch, and you're going to record how many seconds they can go without blinking. Okay, so you're going to do this for your partner, and then you're going to do it for you. Sometimes this causes your eyes to water. I've seen people just, their eyes will leak water. We call that crying. So sometimes that happens. This is not meant to be an endurance race. It's just meant to see about how long you can go without blinking. And then scroll down. Oh, part three says obtain a transparent piece of saran wrap or overhead transparency. This is where you're going to need the goggles. Part three is where you're going to need the goggles. Have your partner wear goggles and about 6 inches away from their face. It says, or the transparency about 6. So we're going to wear goggles. It says, instruct them to try and keep their eyes open as you gently toss a wadded up piece of paper at their eyes. Watch their eyes carefully and record in the chart whether they blink. So in part three, we're throwing the object at our partner. We're marking an X in the correct column. So you are going to throw your paper ball at your partner, at their eyes, and 4 times. You have 4 times, and X if they blinked or did not blink. Okay? So again, your partner has goggles on. You have a sheet of paper you've wadded up into a ball. You're going to throw the ball at their face, the little wadded up sheet of paper ball, and you're going to notice whether they blink or did not blink. Okay? So it says mark an X in the correct column for your partner. And then they're going to do it to you because you are the partner. So be careful how hard you throw because it's coming back at you. Okay? Once you have all of your data, and I'm sorry, let me go back to part three. In part three, you're just going to record what happened to your partner. It's not like parts 1 and 2 where you record yourself and then your partner. Okay? And then we're going to talk about the results or what happened. So we're going to do some analysis on our data. Does part 1 demonstrate that blinking is voluntary or involuntary? So you choose one of these and then explain why you think that. Explain what the data tells you from part 1 if this is voluntary or involuntary. Okay? How does part 1 show that blinking is protective of your eye? Okay? So you can write that down. I mean, it really depends on, I guess, how many times they blinked in part 1 while they were reading or while they were doodling or what have you, whatever your activity is. Then we move on to part 2. Does part 2 demonstrate that blinking is voluntary or involuntary? So part 2 is where you are trying not to blink, and how long can you go? So you'll choose voluntary or involuntary and then explain why you think that according to part 2. Okay. Number 4 says, describe how your eyes felt after no blinking. And this sentence should start with, my eyes felt blank, however you want to describe it. And then there's a second part to number 4. Explain how blinking is helpful and protective. Blinking is helpful and protective because, and you'll answer that question as well. Number 5 says, what might happen if you were unable to blink? So if you were to pretend that you had some sort of medical condition that did not allow you to blink, what do you think the consequences of having such a condition could be? Number 6 says, how do you explain the difference between your average time without blinking and that of your partner? So we do not expect to have the exact same time right here. There's so many different factors in how long you can hold your eyes open without blinking. So how would you explain that difference between the two? And you might want to talk to your partner a little bit about that. Hey, do you have allergies? Is there something that affects, how often you blink or why you blink or when you don't blink? Is there something that works? So those are the questions you'll answer after this lab, and then you'll turn it in. Let me know if you have any questions.